Hello and welcome to another conversation about change, about life, about choices we make and choices which very often are forced upon us. And my guest, my sharer in the conversation, Lizel van Westhuizen. So happy to have you here.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you work in radio, television. You do MC work all over the world. You now have a brand
building company,
brand building and training people in awareness of. We'll talk about that.
So much to talk about.
Yeah, and the whole social media presence, etc., etc. But all of this is, if you look back to when you were 15, 16. This didn't look like the possible future.
Not at all.
Too tall, too early, shy, couldn't speak in front of people.
Too skinny. My name was being teased. I grew up in Pretoria North, and I went to an all-girls school in Pretoria. I was teased about where I grew up and where I live. And but you learn to live with that. That's just the thing. And it actually helped me later on in life to realize that the things we were teased about at school and the workplace, it's different things you teased about. You just get a little bit stronger and you learn to laugh it off. And of course, I've got a great support base to get me through that.
There was another possibility, and that is that you could have just withdrawn and become a typist
or done something completely different, been behind the scenes and not been in front of the scenes.
How did you manage? Because I was also very uncomfortable in front of audiences as a school girl, refused to talk at debating societies, etc., etc. How did you overcome that?
It was
actually very active in Toastmasters.
I was. That was part of it. It was exactly that, and I'm very proud to talk about it. And one thing I'm sad is since I've come to Cape Town, I haven't had a chance to reignite my Toastmasters, and I'd really love to. That's something I'd love to work on. But I was in my honours year, and I remember standing in front of the class. You have to present in your honours work, you present some of your work, and really nervous in the group environment. I thought, I could sit and try and get through this, or I could find assistance. And it just happened to be, I picked up the Pretoria News at the time, and they have a arts and culture section. And I don't know if they still do it, but I paged, and there was a big full page of all the Toastmasters clubs in Pretoria. So I thought, this is perfect. Let me find one. And I read a few of the profiles, what they were about. Some were aimed at more corporate, some were within companies, and I found Pretoria East Toastmasters. And I called them up and I said I'd like to join. And the gentleman, Van der Spey, Brent, I still remember this, picked up the phone, and he was the first person that greeted me in the door. But when I arrived at Toastmasters, I first sat in the car for half an hour. I didn't have the courage to walk into the room. And once I was in there, it felt as if I was home and as if this is the place where I know that I can grow as a speaker. And I didn't realize it was going to lead to where I am today.
But how did you, because I would be, let me start that sentence a different way. One assumes that Toastmasters is a club of people who love speaking and who do it really well.
But it is, but they also know the fear that you face of public speaking. I mean, isn't it the number one or number two fear in the world, the biggest phobia? And they actually have a committee called PR, and I think it's still called that, and that's the person or new membership welcomer. It's the person that stands at the door and sees who is straggling in the parking lot, like I was, getting out the car, getting back in the car, getting out the car, getting back in, and going, this is not for me. And they actually do that, and their job is to make you feel welcome. And not once in the whole experience did I ever feel that I wasn't good enough as a speaker, that I didn't know what I was doing. And that was the whole premise around Toastmasters.
So what is the key? If you have to walk onto the stage now, how do you handle, because I'm sure you still feel...
Yes. It's all about preparation. I know if I've got to go speak on a stage, I'm not going to come unprepared. And Toastmasters teaches you that. The other thing they teach you is to keep within your time limit. So if you're speaking for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, they train you to do those long or short speeches. So you actually know how to work your time. Because often I'm sure you've attended meetings or talks where the speaker who's supposed to speak for 10 minutes is on stage for 90 minutes. So it's about knowing your timing and about just knowing your talk. You don't have to be the world's best speaker. Just know what you're going to say when you're on stage.
Yeah, Churchill said he was making a long speech because he didn't have time to prepare a short one.
Yes, but that's so true. And I realized that in Toastmasters. I knew what he was saying there, yes.
You started studying communications at Tux. What was the idea?
So the idea was actually human resources, because I love being with people. I thought this would be a perfect degree for me to deal with people. I never thought TV would be in my field, so it wasn't anything that I'd ever thought of. And in my honours year, I was sitting in the human resources lecture in honours, first week, and I was the girl with the long, crazy hair, crazy tie-dyed skirt that my mom had worn and my gran had worn, and I looked like an art student. And a lot of people confused me for this crazy art student, because I was really different in the way I dressed. And the lecturer turned to me and he went, first of all, Lizel, you're the one that keeps asking all these questions about HR. You look like an art student. There is no future for women in human resources management, and you're actually wasting your time in my course. And I thought, I got a half bursary to be here. I didn't stand up and say anything. And I thought, I don't want to actually study human resources anymore if this is the way you treat it as a woman. I mean, this was a good 10, 12 years ago, and 15 longer years ago. And it kind of hit me that, I can hear now my voice is starting to, do I actually want to fight in a man's world for human resources, or is it something I don't want to do? And I actually enjoy communications more, and I went to the communications department. I said, it might be too late. Is there still space for me to study honours? And the lecturer said, yes, I remember you from the class, love your creative spirit, come and join us. And
but it's a different approach.
Very different approach. And had the approach been, I mean, I could have stood up for myself and I could have stayed in human resources, but it actually wasn't for me. Communications and doing my master's in communications was the best thing. So my path changed there. I changed it without knowing that it was the right path for me. So he was meant to say that. And as much as I was angry for months and years after that, looking back at it now, it was the right thing. And it was meant, the message was meant for me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't meant in, I'm sure he didn't mean it in, well, he probably did, but I shouldn't have taken it
I think
that
he
way.
did.
Yeah, he did, yes, yeah.
Tux FM was also a big moment for you.
I don't talk about this moment often, but it was in my honours, and in my first year, and I thought, I'm studying, but I need to add something to it, to kind of, and looking back at it now, I've started building my brand without consciously knowing it. And I saw the application forms for Tux FM, and I thought, well, let me be an entertainment presenter. Let me go for the audition. How hard can it be? It's a voluntary organisation. And I walked in, and there were 5 women and a man on the panel. And I was kind of overwhelmed. Now imagine the girl with the pigtails, the tie-dye skirt, walking in, looking completely different, not like any first-year student, and you're trying to tell them that you want to be an entertainment journalist, but the words don't come out. And the females were sniggering amongst each other, whispering, and I just couldn't speak. I couldn't even say my name. Then they asked me all these entertainment questions, and I knew none of the people they were talking about, and I thought, oh, I've really messed this up. And they went, no, sorry, you can't be a presenter, you can't even speak. I think that was also my catalyst to joining Toastmasters later on. And as I got to the door and I walked out and I said, thank you for the interview. Funny, I found my words there. The gentleman turned to me and he went, actually, there's a job as a tea-girl, you can take it, but very snidey, and it was a joke. And I went, sure, no problem, I'll take it. And he went, and he said, no, there's no tea-girl job, we were just joking, and they were all sniggering and laughing. These are students at a voluntary student organisation. It still shocks me to this day. But I took the job, and I insisted they give it to me. And I worked my way into admin and into PR and to the music division within Tux FM. But the funny story is the gentleman's name was Gareth Cliff, who I later worked on Idols with, and we recounted the story, and we had a good laugh about it. So another moment where I could have done things differently and just walked out, but I then found my voice and said, I'll take the T-girl job. And that's how I started at Tux. Never went on to air though, and I was still too nervous. And that came later on. But it was also a changing moment in my career.
But how did the move to television happen?
At Tux FM, I started working in the music division. So I started in admin, doing all the typing agendas. And then the music manager approached me and said, can you come and assist with me? I need someone who can go to the record companies and liaise with them. Someone who's got PR skills. And at that time, I'm studying human resources with a little bit of communications on the side. And I thought, this is great. I enjoy people. Let me go. And every week, I'd go and liaise with all the record companies, meet all the musicians, meet various people, arrange interviews, and start setting that up. And it was in my halfway through my honours year that I got an offer to work at Virgin Records as a junior publicist. So that all linked beautifully together. And while I was there, while I was at Tux, before I got into Virgin, I saw a notice on the Tux FM notice board asking for an announcer in macro. And I remembered how nervous I was in that audition with Gareth Cliff and all the other ladies that were standing there. And I thought, do I have it in me to be an announcer in macro? Let me just go and try out. And I hid in the aisle while I was doing the audition. So they couldn't see me, but they could hear me. And I basically leaned into the shelf and did the announcement, really shaking. And I'd written everything down. But they liked my voice. And I started announcing in macro. So studying as a student, working part-time, volunteering at Tux FM, and then some weekend shifts as an announcer in macro. Which also
and you learned to hear your voice and be okay with it.
Yes.
And
that's also helped at Toastmasters, because I was just joined Toastmasters through that. And it was, I started then working at Virgin Records, and now and then I'd help out at Macro. And it was only years later that I was assisting on a weekend at Macro, not even thinking about it, and the program manager for Jacaranda FM had heard, and a couple of days later had phoned to say, come for an audition. And everything at that stage, it just linked in.
So actually, for the first time, someone said, I see your potential.
Yes.
Come.
Yes. And then I was completely nervous there, knew nothing about that side of radio. And literally went in, and the producer that was assisting was so nice. He let me retake. And he said, we'll stay here till you get it right. So they heard the best side. They could hear that nervous side. And I started doing late nights at Jacaranda, 2 to 6 in the morning, as one starts out on weekends. And I just took it with two hands. I didn't complain. It was something that I started yearning for now that I was in the music industry, and I was learning to be more confident in myself. And it all worked out the way it was meant to.
And the Idols presentation?
So I was at Jacaranda, and we were doing a photo shoot, and the makeup artist said to me, do you have an agent? And I said, no, I don't have an agent. She said, Lizel, I had so much fun working with you. Let me introduce you to a friend of mine. He's an agent. I've just done your face. You look amazing. Go and see him straight after this photo shoot. And I thought, okay, let me go. Not often you have a full face of makeup on and you get an opportunity to meet an agent. And I went, and we started doing various auditions, and I'd auditioned for a lot of things. I'd auditioned for Igorli, Steven Delan, you can name it. It was shows that I auditioned for, and I got nothing. And Idols only came after I was on SABC as a continuity presenter. And I'd heard that they were auditioning for Idols, and I said, do you think I'd get an opportunity? And they said, you might. But I knew that it was a very male-dominated, Idols had always been male presenters. So the chances of a female presenter is quite slim. And they sent the script, and I never got it. For some reason, I never got the script. And I phoned the agent the next morning. I said, I'm on the way. The script hasn't come through. And he said, but I've sent it. Ended up in the junk folder, and I was sitting in the audition green room where you sit behind the stage and wait. And they said, did you see the script? And I went, do you perhaps have a hard copy that I could just glance over? And I thought I had nothing to lose by just going and glancing over it and making it my own. And I also had this idea in my head that they might not see me for Idols, but you never know who's watching and who you're auditioning for. So it might not be for Idols, but there might be another opportunity. So I kind of went with, let me have fun, let me be myself. I hadn't watched Idols the first or second season at the time, so I wasn't too sure how the format worked. I knew a few of the things, and I just went in there and I just had fun with the audition with no pressure on myself. And I think that's
a completely different
approach. Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that pressure of going, I want it. In the back of my head, I thought they'll probably give it to a guy, but let me just have fun. And the fun element is kind of what set me aside and made me eventually get the role.
But then you left in the second season, in the middle of your second season, to come and do Expresso.
Yes, an
opportunity. That's quite a thing.
It is a thing. It is a big thing, and it was a big risk that I took. And there were times where I was.
Did you make that decision? Why not finish the season?
I wanted to finish the season, and they wouldn't allow me to. SABC was putting on pressure. Idols was putting on pressure because obviously it's competing channels. They can't have the same presenters. And I thought, to be on a breakfast TV show in South Africa is a great opportunity. Let me take it with both hands. So it was a very hard decision, and it's not a decision I regret. It's I wish I'd been able to finish Idols, and we only had like 4 more weeks left, so I could finish it and see it through. So that's the one thing if I had to regret anything, was not being able to. But on the other hand, SABC was putting this pressure going, well, if you don't take it, we'll give it to someone else. And I thought, Idols ends now. I don't know if there's going to be another season of Idols. What do? I need to look after myself and my career. So it was a difficult time.
And had you by then decided that this was your career now? You were going to be a radio and television person?
Yeah, then I knew, because Idols is seasonal, and I knew being on TV every day, now at least I know that
You've got a salary.
I've got a salary. Yeah, and so I thought that's the career. But I've always been of the impression that through Idols and through radio, I'd freelance. So you don't always work, it's seasonal. So I've always had either radio in the background or TV or something else that I could PR, that freelancing as a publicist or doing PR. So I've always held 3 or 4 jobs at a time, or announcing in macro. So whatever it is, I always had 1 or 2 fingers in the pie somewhere. So I knew it wasn't only going to be TV, I'd have to find something else, maybe a macro or something else in Cape Town.
That is such an important thing for a person like both of us, working in a freelance environment. When Dion Opperman started AFTA,
yes,
I remember reading somewhere that he said to his students, you need to have 5 different things on the go all the time.
It is.
Because they will come and go.
Mm. And you need to learn. You need to learn different skills. So it might not just be about presenting. You need to know what's happening behind the scenes, or something else, another source or income stream. And it had always been, because I'd been working at campus radio, I'd been studying, and I'd been at macro, I'd always had juggled a few things and been able to manage that. I think it just stood me in good stead through everything.
And I think that is so important to say to people who want to enter the industry. It is never going to be,
it's not
just
easy.
Plain sailing.
No.
You're not going to get, it's not the same as working in an office and going to the,
and knowing you've got a medical aid, and at the end of the month you're getting X, and you can pay your car off, and you can pay your phone off.
But it can work.
It can work, but it's also about being clever and managing your money, which I have a big thing about this. We need to train more, and I know you and I had this conversation as well, youngsters, about knowing how to save, because you get, for 6 months you earn, then for 6 months you don't earn as a freelancer, or 3 months. So you know that this 6 months has to last you for a year, and not just 6 months. Yeah. So it does get hard, and everyone thinks it's really big money that you're making on TV, and you're able to buy all these great things, and it's not always the case. And your contract's only from month to month or 6 months, and you need to know that you've got something in the background that you can kind of fall back on.
In the meantime, you also did a master's degree in communications management.
Yes.
Why? Why keep studying?
The reason was, and no one must judge me on this, I had gotten half my scholarship back. They said if you study your master's, I think they were going through the university might have been looking for students for the master's program. And because of my marks, I got 50% off my fee. And I thought, well, to be able to afford to go and study and get 50% off, let me just do it. So it was kind of the opportunities here, and I've been wanting to do a doctorate and follow up on that, and it's been something in the back of my head, but the whole fees and the costs and stuff is always been the thing. So that's why I did my master's, because it was just that opportunity at the right time. And I love the fact that I have that.
It is a really difficult academic discipline to do postgrad study.
Postgrad and working full time. It is
so
very hard.
Is there part of you that is a studious, academic focused
I never see myself, and I'm busy studying at the moment because I'm studying for a skipper's license, and I've been doing exams. You've got to do chart work and math work and work out all these calculations. And I mean, the last time I studied was years ago. So it brought back all these memories and all this pressure of going, what if I fail my chart work exam? And then I think to myself, what is the pressure we're placing on students? What pressure do we place on ourselves at matric level to pass and pass at varsity and as adults to pass? And it's okay to fail, and it's okay not to be the A student. So I looked back at that and I went, how did I ever cope through all of that? How did I have the strength? I was so young to work full time and study, and I was in a group of the students who were much older. They were all working. I had come straight out of Tax FM. I'm in the music industry. It's a creative. It's not a corporate world. It was never seen as a real career. Even the students that were studying with me said, but it doesn't count. It's not a real job being in the music industry. So so it's interesting how I did that. I don't know how, and I was lucky enough at Virgin and EMI Music. They'd given me some study days and leave days to be able to do that. So because it was communications and it fell in with PR. So it kind of went hand
Well,
in
still,
hand.
well done.
Thank you.
And now you're into something which is a kind of, it's almost as if it's morphed. You know, the whole social media presence, and now with that goes your brand building, you have a brand building academy.
Yes. That's also started as, it's funny how things in your life work out, and only when you sit back, and I'm sitting here with you thinking back on how it all happened.
Yeah.
In 2010, Craig Jacobs had an article. It was a photo of my sister and myself at an event. We looked really tall. We have super high heels. We're a really tall family. And they wrote the Giraffe sisters were there. And there was a photo of us. And I thought, that's quite an insult. And I remember hiding that from my sister Monique and going, I don't want to show her because I know what it was like growing up.
Did it feel hurtful?
It did feel hurtful. And we grew up being teased about our height. And I remember trying to protect her, not showing her the article. And she'd heard from someone, we were there in the paper, and she'd phoned, and she said, what did they say? And I said, oh, you're not going to like this. They said, we look like giraffes. And she went quiet, and I thought, she's probably crying or trying to hold back tears. And instead her reaction was, yes, we have a nickname in the media. And I thought, wow. She's actually right. And my sister's always been the person, whenever there's something negative written about me or said about me, I know that I can go to her because she can twist it around and see the funny side. And it just started spiraling. This giraffe nickname just started spiraling about a sportswear company sent me a jacket with giraffe on the back, which I still have to this day. When I check into a hotel, they'd fold the towels into a giraffe and say, welcome giraffe. And I didn't realize what a big pull this had. And it was only until Jen Sue, she used to be a presenter on 5, she wrote in her book how I'd been called the giraffe and used that as my brand. And I never actually thought of it. We used it as a joke and as fun, and the giraffe came in everywhere. And wherever I went, even on my bicycle, when I take part in races, there's a giraffe in the front. And so from that, what was meant to be a hurtful, in the gossip column, in the way it's meant to be done, launched this whole personal brand that I didn't think was going to amount to anything. And a coach from America actually approached me and she said, could you come and talk? I'm coming to South Africa. I followed your giraffe story. Could you come and train my mastermind students on personal branding? And I thought, what do I know about personal branding? This was about 2 years ago. I know personal branding, but why are you asking me? And that was my reaction to it. And she said, because you built the Giraffe brand. And I went, that's interesting. And that's how the Giraffe Brand Academy came out, from just helping, assisting someone else on training her students on
So for someone who's completely new to this whole field, what does it mean?
Well,
building
I like
a personal brand.
Well, I like comparing it to we'll start with graduates. Their canvas is blank. When they go and apply for a job interview, what do they have? They've got a blank canvas that they can work with. So it's basically painting your CV with the picture of what you've actually been doing. So volunteering at a campus station, or perhaps walking a dog at a local shelter, or working at an old age home, volunteering beach cleanup. Adding all these things and adding an extra element and dimension to just who you are. And it stands in good stead if you're going to a job interview. What's going to set you apart? And I like to say, what's going to make you stick your neck out above the rest of the candidates? So it's the unique things that make you unique, but that's authentic and real to you. So for me, I love mountain biking. So I share the stories of my mountain biking so people know that I enjoy that. So it's adding the different elements and dimensions into who you are. And then, of course, it's looking at your social media presence. What are you saying on social media? And is it relevant? What is job potential employers going to look at?
And if someone looks at this in
what
10 years' time, will you still be okay with it?
I mean, Trevor Noah was a perfect example when he got the late night show. They looked through his Twitter account and they looked at every single tweet, and I think 4 or 5 were flagged afterwards. They came up, and I can't remember what they were about, and they were flagged during the interview process.
I remember that, yeah.
And it's about having a brand that people can relate to, and companies should also embrace their employees being brands, because they're the biggest spokesperson for the company. If they're embracing the brand and living the brand. There's a young guy that I was working with that works for a car manufacturer, and he works in the back end. He's built his own social media around this really amazing car brand, and every day he posts videos. Nothing to do with the company, they've never asked him, but now they've started incorporating him in, because he's kind of an unofficial brand ambassador. because he loves the brand so much. So it's about understanding who you are as a person and understanding how you relate to people, and then of course linking it all together, how you look outside, online and offline. It's not just the online presence, the social media presence.
But if you are going to put yourself out there on social media specifically as a marketing tool,
Yes.
it's almost a full-time job.
It is, and but it isn't either. I mean, you don't have to tweet all the time. You don't have to Instagram all the time. My big love is LinkedIn, and I always say to especially to graduates, use your LinkedIn profile, because that's where a lot of the corporates look, and a lot of the entrepreneurs are on there and building and sharing stories, and a great way to connect. It's basically one big networking pool. So I always say, post once or twice related to the industry you're in or related to what you're working in, but you don't really have to be on social media. I don't know how everyone does it, to be eight hours a day being able to answer everything.
Yeah.
And just make it manageable for yourself. Make it bite-sized bits. So whether it's one Instagram post a week and one Facebook post a week, that's great. If it's showcasing who you are, it's not just going, "Hi, I had porridge for breakfast," type of thing. It's having a little bit more substance than that.
And tell me something about your. You've done the Ironman twice. You've done all kinds of other things, cycling, a lot of cycling, and the most interesting one recently, tandem cycling with a blind person in the Himalayas.
Yeah. So I got an email about 8 weeks before the events from a lady, and she said her 2 or 3 of her partners that she'd asked weren't able to assist her. Would I be able to? And I wasn't fit enough at the time, and I phoned her and I said, "I don't know if I'm going to be fit enough. Is this a mountain biking race, and how difficult is it?" And I didn't realize what we were actually in for. And 8 weeks later, we left for India, got on a flight with this massive bicycle, and these 2 tall blonde girls. Our nickname was Giraffe. The Giraffes, just by chance, we all had giraffe pajamas and hoodies and stuff. And we arrived in India, 2 Westerners with the big bike, and we arrived at this cycle club called Adventures Beyond Barriers, and they have an organization that give disabled athletes the chance to experience anything, whether it's climbing kili or scuba diving or cycling. And they team up pilots. The front rider is called a pilot on a tandem, the bicycle built for 2, and then the back rider is called the stoker. So they team up pilots with stokers, and we were the South African team that had come to take part. And it was a 10-day journey, 550 kilometers. Doesn't sound far, and it sounded doable, but it was the altitude and was the climbing. So it was 18,500 feet above sea level on the last day. And I think the Everest is 22.5 or 24.5, so that's just to give you a comparison. And it literally was, I worked it out the other day, because every day, basically, if you had to imagine climbing up and cycling down Table Mountain 4 times a day, in terms of steepness. But it was an amazing experience because we lived in tents, and it opened my eyes to what people face on a daily basis. People who are not visually impaired people, and we had people, amputees taking part. And I just saw a different side of life that we're not always appreciative of. The lady that I went with, who had to do a shoot, she said, "I'll just jump into an Uber." And I thought, how do you call an Uber? How do you look on your phone? And I didn't realize that there was voice activation. My athletes had 40% vision. Cindy had 40% vision. And the other athletes, they were completely blind. So their pilots had to describe everything, every single day that you saw, what it looked like, what the forests looked like, what the rivers looked like. And we don't understand fully what people with disabilities are facing in everyday lives.
We take so much
for granted, and we take the basic thing like ordering an Uber. Or how does the Uber driver know who they're picking up, and how do you know you're getting in the right Uber and the right car? Another friend of mine works with the Guide Dogs Association. She had to assist Uber setting up with how to put the guide dog in, and that it's okay for visually impaired people to get in the Uber with their guide dog. So it's little things that we take for granted, or getting onto the right bus, crossing the road, and things like that. So it opened my eyes to that, and to seeing that if the fact that we're living in tents every day, had no running water, and had to basically get up and keep going and be motivated. But also at night, we sat around the fire, and we all shared stories, different stories about our backgrounds. There was a gentleman that was facing cancer, and he'd done this ride with his son. And it was just all these great stories that came out of there. And it just made you realize that you need to be more open to what people are facing every day.
And more appreciative of what you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And assist more.
Yeah.
Because there's so many, and especially in the fitness industry, there's so many athletes who don't have the ability to have someone to cycle with them on a tandem. And I was lucky enough to do that. And next year we're looking at taking some more athletes to do a different type of race. So, and now I've managed to put a group together to be able to do that. And we want to look at doing some races in South Africa as well, where athletes get that opportunity to be able to compete.
Fantastic idea. You're also involved with an NGO which works in Khayelitsha.
Yeah, the Velakaya and Velakaya Life Cycling Academy. Amazing story. They built this after-school center, just a little started with nothing basically, and kids could come after school, do homework, and then get a bike and ride. And it's now just become this vegetable garden and a beautiful homework center with satellite to Europe, to trainers and lecturers in Europe, teaching kids math and geography and all of that. And the safe space that kids can get off the streets, get on their bikes. And there's some great stories about cyclists. One is Zanele, a young girl that we started cycling together when I just came to Cape Town, and she made the SA team. She's just been hit by a car. Good news is she's back on her bike, but her bike's been destroyed. And here's this young girl from Khayelitsha, no bike, no funding, no nothing. And people are now reaching out because they know the Velakai story. They know about Zanele starting out as a young girl cycling. And it's stories like that. That's our future cyclists there. Nicholas Blamini, who's in the Dimension Data team in Tour de France. That's the academy he came out of.
So how are you involved?
So I do various fundraisers for them. I cycled a bike that was powered by social media through the cycle tour, and every tweet
what does
I
that
got,
mean? Powered by social media.
We thought we'd do something different. Every time someone tweeted about me riding or to contribute, I would go a meter further and a meter further and stuff. Luckily, we got a lot of tweets and we had a lot of support. And then Pick and Pay matched my distance that I traveled with bicycles.
Ooh.
And then we donated the bicycles to the organization. And then just involved with various life skills and assisting and rides and getting the word out there. But they're not the only cycling academy that's popping up. Masipumalele has a cycling academy that's come up. So from this catalyst of cycling academy, songo.info and Kaimandi, they do the same thing. They have after school. Once your homework is done and the tutors have marked it, you get a bike. So your incentive is to ride. And I love that it links in school with the fitness side of things. So it's two of I think I'm coming back to the love of studying, I suppose, and the fitness side.
And personally, you were very publicly single for quite a while. Why did you decide to make it public, to write about it?
No, I think I was tired of the dating scene in Cape Town. I just moved to Cape Town. The breakup had happened in Cape Town. And it was quite public, everyone knew about it. And I kind of reclused a little bit about it, and I thought, let me speak about what the dating scene is like. And I was on KFM Breakfast at the time, and they said, this is a great idea. Get onto the various dating apps and start dating. And then we share the stories the next day on air, which made for good content, although some of the guys didn't like that. Obviously, all names were changed. But you just realize that once you're in your 30s, how hard it is in the dating scene. And I'm seeing tweets now from people going, I'm in my 30s and the dating scene is so hard. So, we use these stories on air as ways to say, this is what happened, I'm not alone. And a lot of women came back and said, Liezel, this happened to me, that's happened to me on a date. And so it was more of a story that we could use on air, and there were people out there that could relate to it. It wasn't a fun time. I enjoyed it and it made for good radio, but it was hard when you know that you're in your 30s, everyone's putting this pressure on you, you haven't met someone yet, and is there something wrong with you? And you start doubting yourself. And it was all that pressure that was being put on me about finding your perfect person and your soulmate. And I don't want people to say, when you're 30, you have to get married, or when you're 40. I mean, even Bonan got a tweet the other day going, oh, Bonan, you're in your 30s, you don't have a boyfriend or a husband. Girl, you're just focusing on your career. And I'm going, why are we saying this to people?
Yeah.
Why aren't we celebrating the fact that she's got such a successful career? Why are we telling our women on social media that they should be married, and at what age? So I think, and it was hard for me to deal with that fact that I was single, and I'm getting all these tweets from people, what's wrong with you? Why are you still single? And I was being teased on radio about it as well. So it was only until recently that I'd actually started dealing with it. I hadn't realized how much it actually had affected me.
Bullying is a thing for you. It's one of the topics you talk about.
I do,
and social media bullying these days, of course, is absolutely dreadful.
I went through a stage when I was on Idols, I refused to go into social media because I was either teased about the way I spoke and my pronunciation, or the way I looked, or the way my hair was done, or the way they dressed me, or my hands. I've got a lot of things about my hands. I love to talk with my hands, and it's these long fingers. Someone had actually made a whole website about my hands.
No.
These old granny hands, and actually replaced them with old granny hands, as they call them. And so I started speaking up about that, but I also faced some bullying not only in the workplace when I started in the industry, and I started in various roles, but in the TV industry, in the radio industry, behind the scenes bullies that I see a lot of women are talking about it now, but you're not actually realizing what you're facing. Female on female bullying, a male colleague just saying something snide, or that sexual remark, or talking about your weight. And I started to research it a bit more because it really got to me. I stopped tweeting. I stopped being on social media. I think I went through a year or two where I looked at my social media profiles now, where I just didn't believe in myself as Liezel, and I was really beaten down. That's how I felt, like very low in my life. And it was only until I met Mike, who's now my fiance. He said to me, "But this is not the same person I've met years ago, because he'd met me before. The way you are now, what's changed?" And I'm like, "What changed?" And I look back at all the knocks you take as a person in the industry, from the bullying on social media, whether it's about my weight. I got asked the other day if I'm pregnant, because I'm overweight apparently, and I hate people talking about weight, and I have a big thing about that, and especially to women. I hate the saying women's bodies are made in winter, summer bodies are made in winter. Everyone has a great body all times throughout the year. Stop putting pressure on us to make us look a certain way. And that's how I started speaking out about it, and corporates have actually woken up and gone, "We've never realized that's happening in our company. We've never realized that people are being pushed around and nasty things are being said." I'm going, "But you're right there, you're seeing it."
But it all happens under the surface.
And in South Africa, we don't have a culture about talking about bullying. In America, they're big about it. In New Zealand, they've got policies about bullying, and in the UK as well. And even in our schools, there's only a pilot program now that's come out in the Western Cape. They're testing out at various schools about how to deal with bullies. Our teachers aren't equipped enough to deal with it, and it's not. I mean, they do so much in their daily lives already with schooling and lecturing and with the kids. And to add this onto it as well. But something needs to be done. We're seeing kids, I mean, the suicide rate amongst our school learners on a yearly basis, it's unacceptable. So we need to do more about that. And we're not all as strong. I'm lucky I had a strong network. My folks were very supportive whenever I'd speak about something written about me in the paper, and my sister, amazing, honestly, about that, or a nasty tweet. But you still go home and you still cry. I remember lying in my bed crying about something that a male colleague had said at work, and I didn't have the guts to talk out about it. And when I did talk about it, the company covered it up. So it was kind of a protection thing. And that was the hardest. And it was only now, years later, that I spoke up about it, and I said to them, "Why did you ever do that?" And they went, "But we never realized that." I'm going, "But you did." So not a lot of people are talking about that. We're not doing enough to support our learners, our graduates, in terms of dealing with those bullies. And then it comes to the workplace, and you've got to deal with it all over again. So it's this vicious circle.
But now you have a very beautiful ring.
I do, and a lovely man.
And he was the one then who helped you. Tell me, how did you reconnect, and what made it work this time?
I gate crashed at a party because my friend Jen Sue was singing at this birthday party, and I wanted to see her sing because we never see each other. She's based in Joburg and I was in Cape Town, and I didn't know that it was Mike's birthday. And I got there and I was wearing a black wig, and no one knew who I was. Even on the guest list, they couldn't find my name, but I wasn't on the guest list. So I just said, "Please, can I come in? I'm with so-and-so," and they let me in. And I ended up dancing the whole night. And met him briefly. He says he remembers, but I doubt that he does. And then Jen was having coffee with him a month later, and she said, "Just come and meet Mike properly." And I met him. We'd gone to a launch together. And then only after a couple of months or year, probably 18 months later, I was doing a fitness competition, Miss Bikini competition. And he came to support. He'd heard about it, he'd seen on social media. We hadn't actually stayed in touch. And he was in the front row whistling. And I'm going, I don't want anyone to know that I'm doing this. I've entered under a pseudonym. I didn't tell organizers. I was spray painted so dark. When my parents arrived in Cape Town, they went, aren't we here to support you on a mountain bike race? I went, no, I'm actually doing a fitness competition. And they didn't even recognize this, the way they spray tan you. You're so dark. And my hair was this totally different white color against the dark. So no one really recognized me, and under the name, no one really knew. So I was quite surprised that he'd seen it somewhere. And then he said, can I take you for dinner to celebrate a week later afterwards? And I thought, yeah, it'll be fine. But I gave him a hard time for asking me out on a date. And he said, I want you to, he was really like a proper gentleman. He said, Lizel, we've been watching each other over the last 18 months or 2 years. Do you want to be my girlfriend? I really think we've got a lot in common. Both of us enjoy Ironman and mountain biking.
So it was quite a formal...
Yes, it was. It was a formal
right
date, yes. And I went, no, thank you. But thank you for dinner. I hadn't eaten properly in 6 months because I was doing this fitness competition. He said, no, I'm being serious. And I said, you're not serious? And he said, yes, I am. I said, okay, tell you what. And I took a napkin, a paper napkin, and I asked the waiter for a pen. I said, if you want to be my boyfriend, these are the criteria. And it was the most random things. And I thought, if I'm going to test him, because I'm so tired of dating men that play the field and that don't commit. And I don't know if it's a Cape Town thing or if it's a South African thing, but it's what I'd been experiencing in Cape Town. And I thought, I don't actually want to play.
So what were the criteria?
The things were you can't take another girl for coffee for the first 3 months. And you've got to be exclusive to me for exclusive, no other dating. Or if you go out at night, you have to message me the last thing at night. It was the most ridiculous things that I'd watched the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And it was all this over, the things that scare men away. I tried to do all of that because I thought, if he agrees to this, I've actually never told anyone publicly, so this is the first. And he said, sure, fine. And we've been together ever since.
And did he?
He signed. And there was a time that something happened. I went, no, you signed. No, it was, you're not allowed to go on holiday. It was the most ridiculous thing. You're not allowed to go on holiday for 3 months with someone else and other friends. And I'm not included. It was really ridiculous. I mean, I look at it now and I'm going, why did I ever write this? And we laugh about it now. And I'm so grateful I did that because I was so tired of you go on a date, but the guys that you're on a date with is going, oh, we must hurry up because I've got another date. And that's literally what it was like. And I thought, I don't want a player. Let me put all of this. And if he's serious, and literally he was serious. And it's just been, I didn't realize until my sister pointed it out recently on a visit. And she went, Mike is the person that builds you up and supports you on things like, hi Mike, I want to go to the Himalayas in 8 weeks' time to do a cycle event. Sure, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking of starting a personal branding company. Great, how can I assist you? And when he says assist, it means support. Or what can I help you with anything? Do you need me to do paperwork? Or
sure, but
so
we all need someone like that in our lives.
And we did our first mountain bike race together. I'm not very fast. I'm a participator. And he stayed at the back with me. And one of our first events after that, about 3 months later, was an Ironman. So we were still dating, and it was still new. And he said, Lizel, I want to do this half Ironman distance with you. And I said, you can't really do it with me. He says, no, I'll wait for you in transition, and I'll cycle 7 meters in front of you, and we'll run together. And it's been something we've done. So we did that, and we call that one of our first fun lifestyle dates. And he stayed with me. I was so slow. And he really risked losing his race because men set off before women and different speeds. So he had 10 minutes to make a cutoff, and I had to really push on the bike to make sure that he made his cutoff. So, and those are things where he never once moaned at me and told me to ride faster. He said, Lizel, I need to ask you a favor right now. He was so calm through the whole thing. We were at a water point. We really need to push this. And remember, an Ironman, you're riding a 7-meter distance from each other or a 9-meter distance. You're not riding next to each other. So he was riding behind me, watching me, and shouting, go a bit faster, go a bit. But he never lost his cool. And in situations like that, the husband or the partner could really show the other side of themselves.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, maybe this is my forever person. And it's been like that ever since. And of course, there's been ups and downs, and it's not all roses. But I'm very blessed to have found my person finally.
And your personal space, what do you want around you? What makes you buy a house if you have one, or move in? What attracts you?
I love, and from a young age, I've loved the ocean, and I'd always wanted to live near the ocean. So the fact that I'd lived in Cape Town and Greenpoint, I could smell the ocean, and I've seen the ocean. That was a big thing for me, being near, and I do a lot of water sports, so I stand-up paddle and I surf ski, and living in Cape Town, you can do all these things that I never got a chance to do when I was growing up in Pretoria, and so it's all about the beach element.
So you live on the beach?
We live
or
close enough to the sea
Walking
to get to the
distance.
promenade and to walk and to enjoy that part of things, and I like being with my family, so there's lots of photos in the house of family, and Mike knows this as well. So for my birthday last year, he surprised me with taking me up to Joburg, and my whole family, my mom, my dad, my sister, and my brother-in-law were there for a weekend away in the bush, and that for me is special. So recently surprised me with a visit from my sister and sending us to a spa. That's the type of thing. So he knows that family is important to me, so it has to be homely. And then I've got two crazy dogs, rescue dogs, named Luke and Leia. So they bring so much love into our lives, and you don't realize what a difference an animal makes until you actually have one.
Plans, dreams?
I'm enjoying the space where I am now with the Giraffe Brand Academy, and I'd like to see where that takes me. I have been invited to the States to speak at a conference in March on personal branding. And I'm really enjoying that space, exploring. It's something new. It's something different. It's not TV. It's not media in terms of being in the spotlight. It's something completely different. And it gives me a chance to assist people with things that for me, it just seemed to have come easily for me and for my brand. And I get to see sides of people's brands that they don't actually realize is possible, and ignite a side to them. And I'm enjoying that. I'm working with a trainer named Norma, and she quit her job in administration. She's a personal trainer. She wants to be a personal trainer. And we've set up a whole series of videos together that she's posting every day on her social media. She just got a job interview at one of the gyms in Cape Town. And she said to me, Lizel, it never would have been possible if we hadn't spoken. And you had said to me, you're a trained personal trainer. And she said she loved doing the admin because it's taught her the business side of things. But for her
So
now, she's got
you
this
feel that
opportunity.
you've become a catalyst almost.
That's the word,
Yeah.
yes. I didn't think
Yeah.
that's a great word, yeah. So I'm enjoying that, and I'm enjoying seeing things that people don't see in themselves. Yeah. So
Good luck.
Thank you.
All of the very, very best.
Thanks so much.
It's been such a joy talking to you.
It's been great chatting to you. Thank you for having me.
And to all of you, until the next time, build your brands and enjoy your life. Bye-bye.